Only they will receive punishment. But if you pick the wrong one, then I'll punish everyone besides the blackened, and the one that deceived everyone else will graduate. Okay, well, I'll leave the rest up to you.
Well then, let's discuss the specifics of the victim. First, we need to clarify who exactly the unidentified victim is.
It's Kyoko. There's no other explanation.
It's a hero. You're an idiot.
But Kyoko's standing right there.
No! That's a ghost!
But she has legs and stuff.
Well, that's just because she's like the latest evolution in ghost technology!
What?
There's a limit to how much ridiculousness I can tolerate.
Okay. So I just have to prove that the corpse isn't Kyoko, right? Then let's compare Kyoko's trait.
Her trait?
I got it! I'm talking about her gloves. They'll give us some insight.
In that case, I think it would be helpful if someone explained why she actually wears those gloves.
And would you happen to know the answer?
In fact, Monokuma told me. Apparently you have scars on your hands you don't want anyone to see.
Oh, you know, now that I think about it...
They probably just got burnt up in the explosion. I'm not convinced. The ghost is just trying to fool us all.
Put you on the right hand.
That Kyoko there is just a ghost.
Impossible.
Okay, then prove it. Prove she's not a...
The dead body wasn't wearing gloves.
They got burnt up in the explosion.
Then she was wearing gloves before the explosion.
Well, yeah, she must have been wearing gloves. Because that corpse is absolutely Kyoko.
This entire discussion is idiotic.
That...
Kyoko there!
Impossible.
Okay, then prove it.
The dead body wasn't wearing gloves.
They got burnt up in the explosion.
Then
Ghost
she was wearing
interesting.
gloves before the...
Well, yeah, she must have been wearing gloves. Because that corpse is absolutely...
This entire discussion is idiotic.
That Kyoko... Okay, then prove
The
it.
dead body
They got burnt up.
Then she was wearing...
Well, yeah, she must have been wearing gloves.
Fake nails.
No, it's wrong!
Are you supposed to wear gloves with fake nails on?
No. There's no way the corpse was wearing gloves. Whoever it was, they were wearing fake nails, remember? I imagine trying to wear gloves over nails like that would have been a pretty big pain. Besides, Kyoko wears gloves to hide her hands, right? It'd be pretty weird for someone who's self-conscious about their hands to wear fake nails. Don't you think?
Jeez, man, you don't know women, huh? They're complicated like that.
You did not just say that.
If anyone doesn't know women, it's you.
Well, Kyoko, any thoughts?
These gloves were custom made to the size of my hands to make sure they don't interfere with my daily life. If I wore fake nails, the gloves wouldn't fit properly.
Then that's that.
Which should have been obvious since she's standing right here.
Okay, so then, who's the real victim? First, we need to figure that out.
It's my
That's the first thing I said. You're the one who's been dragging us around in circles.
Before anything, we have to identify the victim. Everything starts here.
If Kyoko really is still alive, then who died?
There's gotta be some way to put things. Her face was scorched beyond recognition, and there wasn't any description in the Monokuma. Oh, if we can't identify the body...
No, that's wrong! There was one clue left behind that we can use to identify the body.
What? For real? If you're lying, you'll die a cruel and unusual death.
So would you.
Cruel and unusual death.
She's just being stupid. Ignore them, Makoto. Tell us what you're talking about.
The key to figuring out who it was is the tattoo on the back of her hand.
Oh, yeah. The design's pretty strange. Her master must have made her get it. To be like, you're my bitch.
Seriously? They really did something?
No, that's not it. The identity of the victim is hidden with...
Oh, really?
I got it! The Fenrir Mercenary Corps. That's the name of the military group Mukuro Ikusaba belonged to.
Okay.
To show that they're a member of the team, each soldier that joins the squad would get a tattoo representing Fenrir somewhere on their body.
Fenrir?
Now I understand. The representation of Fenrir is a wolf.
Fenrir, the Wolf of Ragnarok. It's from Norse mythology. A huge, world-ending wolf beast. He's the child of the trickster god Loki, and a female giant.
Well, that's awkward.
Man, after all this time, we finally got a glimpse of the literary all-star.
A wolf tattoo.
Exactly. The body we found had a tattoo of a wolf, which means that person must have once... So it must have been Mukuro.
What?
Hold on. Isn't she the one that was...
You sound surprised, but you're absolutely right. Yes, indeed. The trial this time is to solve the murder of Mukuro Ikusaba.
Are you saying the mastermind is dead? Now we have...
No. It means we were wrong in thinking that Mukuro was the mastermind at all.
But I mean, being the ultimate despair seems like a...
Maybe we shouldn't have been thinking of her as the ultimate despair in the first place. After all, looking at her profile, I didn't see anything that would fit such a description. All it said was that she was the ultimate soldier. If I remember correctly, that other information came from Kyoko. That's what you told Makoto, right?
So that means Kyoko got it wrong.
Who was she? She's been gone this whole time? And usually when there's a scene where an important character dies, it has a lot more detail.
So you're saying she wasn't an important character? Which would mean she was the same as us. Just another participant.
Then who's the real mastermind?
It must have been the Hope's Peak Academy.
No, the headmaster has nothing to do with it.
But how can we trust that? We already...
My information was not wrong.
Okay. We're in the middle of a trial right now. Figuring out who killed Mukuro is first and foremost. Please limit all future prattle, chatter, and chit-chat as much as possible.
Fine. Uncovering the identity of the mastermind will have to wait. But remember this. No matter what happens, we will find out who you really are. I stake my family name on it.
I have officially decided to completely ignore all such attempts at provocation. Now then, just so nobody's confused, the reason we're having a class trial is because a murder among the students hammered that point straight.
What you're saying is that both the victim and the culprit are part of the student body?
Then, one of us killed Mukuro?
Wait, no. There's a chance that there's some mystery 17th...
No.
Nope. There are only 16 students in total that have been taking part in these events.
Seriously? Then one of us killed Mukuro?
That's what he just
Who
said.
did it? Who's the killer this time?
Get a hold of yourself. We've already narrowed down the list of possible suspects.
Huh?
I'm sure you realize who I'm talking about, right, I'm sure...
I got it! You've narrowed it down to Kyoko and me, right?
Why do you say that?
Allow me to explain. Just after nighttime last night, I went to the garden that at that point, there was... So, the murder must have taken place after I left the garden. However, Hiro, Toko, Hina, and...
The gym?
That's right. The four of us, the whole time, we were very careful not to go anywhere alone. We, all of which is to say, the four of us all have alibis.
Are me and Makoto.
Exactly.
I have something I'd like to say regarding the whole alibi thing.
Are you thinking of raising an objection?
Well, before that, I just want to try and get a better idea of doing that might reveal some kind of clue.
Whatever you want. Somebody go.
Me and Byakuya can both confirm that well, it was after night.
Then but what time did we...
The one who saw the body first was Toko.
I got it! The body must have been discovered at 9 a.m.
He's right. It had to be around then.
So we can be totally sure the murder happened
For me, I was already asleep before nighttime hit. So I don't have an alibi after 10 o'clock. But I'm sure I met up with everyone else before 9
We ran into each other in the dining hall, right? Oh yeah! Right around 7, so I'm totally sure about it.
which means from 10 p.m. to 7:30 a.m.
We've established a time frame for the murder. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep, and Makoto doesn't have an alibi for most of that time.
Yeah, from 10 o'clock to 7:30.
Yeah.
Shoot!
We've established a time frame for the murder. It took place somewhere between 9 o'clock in the...
Yep, and Makoto doesn't have an alibi.
Yeah, from 10 o'clock to 7:30.
That's more than enough time to commit murder, I should think. So Makoto, if you have any objections, now would be the time. We've established a time frame for the murder. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock in the...
Yep, and Makoto doesn't have an alibi for most of that time.
Yeah, from 10 o'clock to 7:30.
Shoot!
We've established a time frame for the murder. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night.
Shoot!
We've established a time frame for the murder. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep, and Makoto doesn't have an alibi for most of...
Yeah, from 10 o'clock to 7:30.
Shoot!
We've established a time frame. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep, and Makoto doesn't have an alibi for most of...
Yeah, from to 7:30.
That's more than enough time to commit murder. So Makoto, if you have any objections, now would be the time. We've established a time frame for the murder. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at...
No, it's wrong! Actually, the murder couldn't have happened anywhere near 10 o'clock. It had to have taken place way late, and because of the sprinklers in the garden. The sprinklers are set to go off right at 7:30 every morning, right? So if the body had been in the garden before 7:30, then it should have been completely soaked.
Oh, hold on! I remember this part perfectly. The body was wet. Dripping wet, in fact.
Sorry, Toko, but you're wrong.
I'm wrong? Are you saying only the mouth down south was wet? How dare...
No, I'm saying that the body was wet, but not because of the sprinklers.
What do you mean by denying the sprinkler?
Man, you're totally...
If you really think it wasn't the sprinkler, you... nothing. I hate you. No! You don't know anything! Hold on! Are you trying to blame me? I admit nothing. Are you trying to blame me? I admit nothing. I hate you. No! How can you say it wasn't the sprinkler?
This should prove it.
Get out of the way.
Just remember what the body was like after the explosion, and you'll see why it wasn't the sprinklers. The top half of the body was wet, yes, but the bottom half was completely dry. If the sprinklers got the body wet...
So they only got the top wet? The bottom was... I'm so sick of her.
Let's just move on. The reason only the top half was wet was because...
You drenched it.
While the body was still on fire, I doused it with water. But only...
Then I guess
So if the sprinklers didn't get the body wet, sometime after the sprinklers...
Which means she must have been killed sometime between then and when the body was discovered.
But Makoto's alibi was only missing...
So there's no way Makoto could have done it!
In which case, the only one left without an alibi is Kyoko.
I'd just like to say one thing. If you vote for me, and I die here, the mystery of this school will stay hidden forever. Which is why I can't let that happen.
So are you saying you're not the culprit?
Of course I'm not. I have no reason to kill anyone. This is a trap the mastermind has laid for us.
A trap?
We're this far into the game, and now you decide to blame me? Stop wasting time! Stop wasting energy! You really think your little trick is gonna work?
Shut up, you!
You got it, boss! Shutting up now!
Anyway, Kyoko, you actually did.
Huh?
She thought Mukuro was the ultimate, so she killed her to try and put a stop to all of it. But you made one catastrophic mistake. And as a result, we were forced into another trial. Something I'm sure you weren't at all expecting.
So, that...
She had a motive and no alibi. Well then...
I'm not the only one without an alibi. Makoto's explanation is still insufficient.
Huh?
The sprinklers didn't get the body wet, but that doesn't mean the murder happened when he said it did.
What?
Because you see, there is a way the body could have avoided getting wet.
Interesting. I'm listening.
All it would take is covering the body with a certain something to keep it from getting wet.
I got it! You're talking about the tarp, aren't you?
You catch on quick. You're right. All you'd have to do is cover the body with the tarp, and that'd take care of the water. In fact, that's exactly what the killer did. The dirt pattern on the tarp can attest to that. Only one side of the tarp got dirty, because that's the side that got covered in water. The side that faced down over the body, meanwhile, kept perfectly clean. This proves that the killer used the tarp.
But why would they go to all that effort just to keep the...
Most likely so they could cloud the issue of when the murder actually took place. In other words, to create an excuse exactly like the one Makoto just gave us.
Wait. Something's not right.
And what might that be? By covering the body with the tarp, the killer prevented it from getting wet.
So the reason the tarp was only dirty on one side is because the sprinkler got that side wet.
But the underside of the tarp, it was totally spotless, right?
It's because that side was protected from the water. Since it was facing down toward the body, of course it didn't get dirty.
No, that's wrong.
get blood on it?
Actually, one side being clean is pretty strange if you think about it. Because the blood wasn't dry before the body got blown up, right? Byakuya said it himself. Not to touch it, or you might get some on you. If you put a tarp on a body in that state...
Well, maybe the culprit washed it, so nobody would know they'd used it.
If they had, they would have washed both sides. Just washing the one side wouldn't hide anything.
Oh, yeah, true.
More than that, what if the very blood we saw on the body was meant as a kind of camouflage? What if, after the killer used the tarp to avoid the sprinklers, they then covered the body in blood that didn't belong to the victim?
You mean someone else's?
I know! They could have grabbed some of the blood. That's what Hifumi did, right? When he...
No, that's not. The killer got the blood from right there in the garden.
I got it! Could it have been...
What? Chicken blood?
When I checked the chicken coop before the murder... But after the murder, there were only 4.
So, you're saying someone killed a chicken and then covered the body with its blood? Man, that's messed up.
Killing a living thing just to do something like that is awful. They should have at least eaten it.
I wonder if the killer had to get the blood from the scene so they wouldn't be spotted walking around. Anyway, there's no denying that a chicken went missing, which provides a basis for my theory.
Perhaps, but even so, there's one thing that still doesn't make sense. You said the culprit used the tarp to avoid the water and then covered the body in blood, right? But if that's the case, then the blood should have soaked into the ground around the body. But that's not what we saw. Only the victim's clothing had blood on it. The ground was completely clean.
I have to agree, that certainly is strange. Maybe they didn't apply the blood at the scene. Maybe they covered the coat in blood beforehand.
They covered it beforehand?
When you discovered the body, was it wearing the coat like you normally would?
Wait, no. The head was through the neck hole, but the arms weren't in the sleeves.
Then that settles it.
Sorry, I'm having a tough time keeping up. What settles what?
Here's what happened. The murder took place before the sprinklers went off, but the body didn't get wet because the then, later, at the same time the killer was gathering up the tarp, they pulled the coat over the body. The coat they'd already covered. This series of cover-ups was meant to disguise the actual time the murder occurred. They wanted us to think the murder happened sometime after the
If that's actually what took place, it certainly becomes possible that the murder happened earlier.
But wouldn't they have had to go back to the garden after that?
Actually wouldn't have been all that difficult.
Huh?
They already had the coat ready. So they just had to grab the tarp and pull the coat over the body. They'd be done in no time.
Maybe, but still...
Hina, after you met up with Makoto in the dining hall, did you
Oh, no. I headed off to the gym, and Makoto didn't show up till later.
Then he had plenty of time to spare, wouldn't you say?
That's not...
Don't bother saying it's not possible.
I must admit, Kyoko's... Well then, it looks like Makoto's alibi is no good, so once again...
For serious, man? Hey, why don't we let luck decide? Let's flip a coin. 50-50 odds.
Well, then you're dead. Well, it doesn't really matter either way.
Oh!
See? Pretty...
No, not that.
Well, don't just stand there.
You know that knife we found all black and burnt?
One we found stuck in the... According to the Monokuma file, the knife went all the way through, from front to back. So, what about it?
I'm pretty sure I'd seen... That's what I thought when I first...
You don't seem surprised. Then why did you hide...
It's not that I...
Suspicious. Now I'm totally convinced he did it.
The knife we found lodged in the dead body.
It's the same one we gave to Makoto.
It really is, isn't it? I was afraid of that.
If he did have that knife before, then that seals it. Makoto did it!
Just because I had the knife once, that automatically makes me...
Well, getting stabbed is what killed her, right?
No, it's wrong! Wait, hold on. The stab wound isn't what killed Mukuro. That should be clear from the description of the cover-up we just heard.
Lies! We never talked about what killed her!
No, don't you remember? The killer covered the dead body with... In other words, the victim never wore that blood-stained coat until after...
Okay, fine. So what?
So, when we discovered the body, the knife had been thrust through the coat along with the body. Meaning, if she wasn't stabbed until the coat was put on, and she was obviously the stab wound isn't what killed her.
Maybe you stabbed her twice. Once to kill her and once to cover it up.
That's so dumb.
I got it! The Monokuma file clearly states...
Oh yeah, it sure did.
Then the knife...
was just another piece of camouflage set... They probably stabbed her to draw attention away from... Exploding the body afterward was probably... The explosion severely damaged the body. It was all the killer's attempt to destroy all evidence of their crime.
So they wanted us to notice the stab wound and then detonated the body afterward. They meant for us to latch onto the knife as the cause of death, then destroy any evidence proving otherwise.
Oh, hey, I have a question. It kind of goes back to the What's the deal with that explosion anyway? Why
If you bothered to put that lump of gray matter between your ears to use, you'd know the answer.
Well, if you're so...
I'll tell you. I bet some unknown quantum particle caused an atomic level spontaneous combustion!
We'd all be dead.
I might be dumb, but even I'm not dumb enough...
Go ahead, Makoto. Tell her or we won't make...
I got it! After the explosion, we found that fragment reveals the cause of the...
Huh? You know...
That's only now... We saw the same thing when we dismantled Monokuma. It's part of a bomb.
Oh! Then the explosion was...
Anyway, the culprit's motive is becoming more and more... They wanted the knife wound to look like the fatal injury, so... And the only one who would benefit from... is the only other possible suspect. You.
Hold on a second, Byakuya.
What's the problem?
Well, I just feel like... we need to think this through. We still don't know what actually killed the victim.
That's true. It's definitely bugging me.
Fine. I have no problem with that. It won't change the facts of the... Then, shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined.
The explosion didn't kill her for sure.
Well, yeah. She was
And it wasn't you because of the knife, right? And then there's only one other thing.
Oh yeah. According to the Monokuma, that's gotta be it. There was evidence that showed she was hit on the back of her head.
Shoot!
Then shall we continue?
The victim's fatal injury had...
The explosion didn't kill her for sure.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't you because of the knife. And then there's only one other thing.
Oh yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence that showed she...
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body.
Shoot!
Then shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be...
The explosion didn't kill her for sure.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't you. And then there's only one other thing.
Oh yeah. That's gotta be it. There was that...
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body. Then shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined.
The explosion didn't kill...
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't even then. There's...
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence that showed she was hit.
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body.
Shoot!
Damn it.
I refuse to give up yet.
Really good to graduate.
Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal injury.
The explosion didn't kill her for sure.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't even then. There's only one...
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence.
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body. Then shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined, correct?
The explosion didn't kill...
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't even then. There's only one other...
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence.
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body. Then shall we continue that the victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined, correct?
The explosion didn't kill her for sure.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't even then.
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it.
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body. Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined, correct?
Shoot!
Then shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined.
The explosion didn't kill...
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't because of the knife. And then there's only one other thing.
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence that showed she was hit on the back of her head.
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body. Then shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined.
The explosion didn't kill her for sure.
Well,
Yeah. She was...
And it wasn't even then. There's only one other...
oh, yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence that showed she was hit on the back of her head.
Shoot! Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal injury has yet to...
The explosion didn't kill her for sure.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't because of... then there's only one other...
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence that showed she was hit on...
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body. Then shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined.
No, it's wrong. Mukuro died because of the blow to the back.
What about the wounds all over the rest of her body?
The Monokuma file makes it clear that those weren't fresh wounds.
Oh, yeah, good point. If they were old, I guess they don't really matter.
Okay, then we're safe in assuming the blow to the back...
Then, what was the murder weapon? The Monokuma file says she was hit with a blunt object.
Oh, I bet it was the pickaxe.
How is that even possible? If you hit someone with that...
Well, maybe they held it the other way and hit her with the handle.
No way! The balance would be all off. You wouldn't be able to swing it with any kind of power. I wouldn't mind testing it on you if you want.
No thanks. I bet you just hit me with a metal end and call it an accident.
I'd love to scoop out that nasty brain. Seriously?
We want to figure out what killed...
We already know? I knew we could catch...
So what... Go ahead and tell them, Makoto. Surely...
I got it! Mukuro was hit in the back of the head with something. And that something was the titanium arrow.
Arrow? That's what the culprit attacked Mukuro with?
Indeed. There's no doubt about it.
Are you sure? Hey! How dare you back? I'm not back-talking anything.
The titanium arrow. It was in the dojo locker, right? I have no doubt that was the murder weapon. Shoot!
The titanium, it was in the dojo.
I have no doubt that was the murder weapon.
Are you sure?
You don't sound convinced.
Well, cause in the... It said the weapon must have been about as thick as a metal pipe. It seems like an arrow would just be too thin.
No, it's wrong. You're right. Just the one arrow would have been too weak.
Another weapon?
Inside the dojo locker, we also... The killer probably uses duct tape. Bundling them together using the duct tape would easily create a single weapon as thick as a pipe. And that's exactly what the killer did.
It's similar to Aesop's fable about the bundle of sticks. One stick is weak, but put them together, and they become strong. It's meant to teach cooperation.
Damn, that's harsh.
How is it harsh? Are you even listening?
Anyway, that explains the murder weapon. As for who the culprit is, it was you, Kyoko.
I've never been to the dojo.
Oh no, you
How can you say that was...
because we have proof of... Surely you don't intend to... You know what will happen. If you cover for the culprit, there's the death of us all.
Of course I...
Then show us. Show...
I got it! The one thing that proves Kyoko right here. The key to the dojo locker.
And how does that prove anything?
Because I found it in your room.
It was in my room?
Don't bother trying to play dumb. That key is just your non-existent alibi, your clear motive. This all proves that you are the true culprit.
Hold on a second.
Not this again.
No, it's not that there's one more thing I need. Kyoko. Last night. Why? What were you doing there? That's what I need to know.
I was just protecting you.
What?
That's enough. The time for idle...
Wait, I'm warning you. Don't make this mistake.
I knew you were stubborn.
Really? But you should know better than any. Can you tell me I'm wrong?
I should know. Those words you just spoke. What do you...
Exactly what I said. I'm not the killer. You should understand that more than anyone here.
Byakuya, what are you hiding?
Master would never hide something from me!
There's proof that you aren't the culprit. Shoot!
Those words you just...
Exactly what I...
I'm not the killer.
You should understand...
Byakuya, what are you hiding?
Master would never hide something from...
There's proof that you aren't the culprit.
Is that what you're saying?
You stated a theory earlier. You said I hid the evidence of my crime in the dojo locker, and then left the locker key in my own room. Correct? But could I really have done that?
Those words you just...
Exactly.
I'm not the killer.
You should understand...
Byakuya, what are you...
Master would never hide...
There's proof that you aren't the culprit.
Is that what you're...
You stated a theory. You said I hid the evidence of my crime and then left the locker key in my own room. But could I really have done that?
Those words you just spoke.
Exactly.
I'm not the killer.
You should understand...
Byakuya, what are you...
Master would never hide something from me!
There's proof that you aren't the culprit.
No, that's wrong!
Yeah, like
If I'm right, Kyoko, because she had given her room.
I see. And if I had the key to your room...
Then obviously I had no way of getting in. Without my room key, I couldn't have popped. Am I wrong?
It would appear not.
Then you're finally
Run away. Well, let it go. But we shall find out what happens next time. Because I need to go to bed. Plus, nobody watches me.